Switzerland bans the burqa. Switzerland's parliament has endorsed a new law banning face coverings believed to target women wearing burqas and niqabs. This decision comes after the country's lower chamber voted 151 to 29 in support of the bill, which not only bans the covering of the nose, mouth, and eyes in public spaces, but also in private buildings accessible to the public. Violators will face a fine of 1,000 Swiss francs, which is about 1,114 US dollars. Although the legislation includes exceptions to indigenous customs, religious services, theatrical performance, and health and climate reasons, it follows a 2009 policy prohibiting the construction of new mosque minarets. Notably, a 2021 study by the University of Lucerne indicated that only between 21 and 37 women in Switzerland wore a niqab in total, while none wore the burqa. Yes, Basalia is saying, I'm assuming this doesn't include COVID masks. Yes, there is an exemption for health reasons. So we actually covered this a long time ago when either this was first being introduced or promoted, or when the lower house was voting on this. I can't remember. It was, I don't know, probably maybe over 2 years ago. And one thing I remember talking about at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, is that they were framing this campaign in two ways. One, this was about the niqab and burqa, and two, this was also about Antifa. So, like, well, for those who are not familiar, like Antifa militants, there's a tactic that they use that's called black bloc. And when you do black bloc, it's basically the idea that everyone in the crowd will wear head to toe black, and including face coverings, head coverings, and often sunglasses as well, to make your entire body as unidentifiable as possible. And also to make it very difficult to distinguish people amongst a crowd all wearing black bloc, you know what I mean? And so, however, I don't know how I feel about this. Before I get into it too much, Armin, tell me what you think.
Okay, what is the reason they're giving for this? Why are they banning it?
Basically, like, security reasons.
But
That was my understanding.
I don't. So why would you? Wouldn't the COVID mask have the same security problems than with the burqa?
This is the thing. Like, so they framed this in terms of stopping extremism. So if you look at the imagery that they put out for this campaign, or that one group in support of it put out for this campaign, the translation of these advertisements says to stop extremism. And in the photos, you see like a cartoon of an Antifa guy in complete black bloc. And then you also see a cartoon of a very angry looking woman wearing a niqab. And the background is all red, and then the people around
How
all
does it
black,
stop
and then it says
extremism?
stop extremism.
Wouldn't
I
it?
don't know. Because, like, I mean, so I don't think anyone would argue that wearing the niqab or burqa is extremely conservative. It's like literally the most conservative form of wearing the hijab that you can undertake, right? For Antifa black bloc, yeah, I mean, it is only the people that are very fringe who undertake that kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so wouldn't so against extremism, imagine you're an extremist Muslim and now you are told that you can't wear a burqa. How would that reduce your extremism? Again, I'm trying to understand this. I'm not saying if it does or it doesn't. I'm just trying to understand how it does that. I mean, I'm all in for if somebody shows me that this is a security risk and this is banning this will remove it, help, because I was pro niqab bans, for security reasons. I was pro niqab bans for security reasons, right? But then when COVID comes and now everybody could wear a mask, now I don't understand how this is how you could allow COVID masks, but then not allow the niqab, because now it's everywhere. Now everybody's covering their faces. So how is this now? How does this reduce the security risk if you just get people to remove their niqab, but everybody's allowed to have their COVID mask?
Exactly, but there are other nations in Europe that ban the niqab face covering. I think one of them is the Netherlands. Don't quote me on that. It might be Denmark or just like somewhere in Scandinavia. I can't quite remember, but one of those countries. And so this has a very serious consequence because there are women who refuse to leave the house because they are not allowed to wear the face covering that they would want. And obviously, that's not the kind of consequence that I want in a society. On the other hand, what women started doing after the COVID pandemic is they just start wearing face masks as its own niqab, basically. I've seen that a lot, actually. Like women who, if they're not allowed to wear the niqab the way that they want to wear the niqab, they just wear like a black face mask, a black medical mask instead. And then it's basically the same thing, but they get around it because it's, it's a loophole.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm all. If somebody could justify this policy, let me know. Like, I don't understand. I'm not. I don't understand it. Really, I don't understand it. It just seems like a way to get people more radical. Actually, to think about it, like I think this is promoting radicalization because it just seems so unfair. And if you're a Muslim in Sweden, then Switzerland, then you are going to feel like, okay, this is so stupid. They're letting the COVID mask, they're not letting the niqab. Obviously, we're being marginalized and oppressed here, and that's just going to feed into extremism, isn't it? Is that not what it's going to do? Like, isn't this helping extremism?
I think so. I think I feel really conflicted about this because well, one, I don't think this is something that is necessarily, because studies in Switzerland have found that less than 50 women reportedly wear the niqab in the country at all. So the practice isn't even that frequent. So if the practice is that small, then a legislation to ban it is going to feel that much more targeted, right? But
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's going to make so the other Muslims who don't wear the niqab, they're going to feel like, oh, they're targeting us, even though they're not wearing the niqab. Like, they're going to think this is a way to tell us that we're not welcome here. So it impacts more non-niqabi Muslims than niqabi Muslims, because there's a very small percentage of Muslims that wear niqab, but all the Muslims in Switzerland are going to notice that they're being targeted, right? So I don't know. I don't think it's going to have the effect that they think it's going to have, or maybe this is not just about extremism or Muslims. This is just giving into the voter base on Switzerland. I think this is what this law is about. This is not supposed to solve anything. This is supposed to just make the people in Switzerland who want to vote for parties that are doing something against immigration, to make them feel like, look, we're taking action, so please vote for us. I think that's the main purpose of this law. Like, it doesn't solve anything. It seems like it's not going to solve anything other than getting votes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think you're right, because especially the imagery that I saw in at least from one group that was promoting this ban. I mean, it's just like so explicitly essentially demonizing a group. Like when you see the imagery of the niqabi, like she looks furious, and that says stop extremism. So your message to the average Swiss citizen is like, if you're wearing a niqab, you're an extremist. And look, I'm under no delusion that wearing a niqab is extremely conservative. Like, it is very extreme in its own way, right? But I don't think that's helpful towards the general public to be putting that kind of imagery and rhetoric out there. But I was thinking about how I feel about these kinds of bans in general. And I'm really torn because my opinion is flavored by a couple things. One, so I have so many friends that are ex-Muslim refugees, and they tell me about their experiences going through the refugee system in Europe. And a lot of the stuff that they tell me is extremely shocking. And they express really, really grave concerns about the kinds of people that they see being let into these countries and what they believe, because they know the real truth about what a lot of these people going through the system believe better than maybe even the caseworker. Because the caseworker gets presented one thing and they see what's happening within these systems from a completely different side, right? And they're like, Susanna, as a Westerner, you do not understand what these people actually believe. You do not understand how seriously they believe it. You do not understand what they actually want to bring to Europe. Because I've seen it firsthand and I know. And also, they've gone through these systems where they are supposed to be safe, after they've gone through everything they've gone through to escape their home country. And then they're still faced with threats for being ex-Muslim within the system because of how extreme a lot of the other people seeking asylum are. And that's unacceptable, right? But that's the reality of the situation. And so a lot of them are very much like, no, there should be no place for these kinds of things because you don't understand the threat that it poses. But, and then another part of me is like, part of me wants this practice to be banned because I do find it to be so sexist, right? But then the rest of me is like, do I want the state involved in dictating what is and is not sexist and then making prescriptions about how people are supposed to behave because of that? I think that's a very dangerous direction to go down. So I think I don't think it's appropriate.
Before COVID mask, to me this made sense, the burqa ban. But now with COVID mask, it makes no sense. And again, Soha is saying something, this doesn't make sense to me. Soha is saying there's a difference between burqas and masks. You can wear a mask without a headscarf. With burqas, you have to cover everything except the eyes, which terrorists can hide by wearing it. What are you talking about? You could wear a mask and a hijab at the same time.
Yeah,
you could wear a COVID mask and a headscarf.
And then it's essentially a niqab.
It would be the same thing. What is the point of this law? If you cover your face, make sure it's a COVID mask, which effectively would do the same thing, but not in a niqab. Like, what are you? This makes no sense. I mean, I thought this makes no sense, and I thought like maybe I should talk to you guys. You could make this make sense to me, but it makes no sense to me. I mean, look in the picture. Look, there's a woman with a hijab and a COVID mask right there. That's the same. That's effectively the same thing. Like, from security perspective, like, how is this not banned? If it's a bad security, why is this not banned and the other one is? This is bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Secular Rarity saying that. By the way, guys, I'm gonna read the super chats thank you for the super chats. I will read it between the news. But Secular Rarity saying, that being said, I think it's a misguided policy. I also think the burqa and niqab are wrong, but banning them also seems wrong. Yeah, I mean, at least before there was a excuse that I didn't know if it was genuine excuse or if it was just an excuse. They were like, this is a security issue and we're banning all face coverings. Like, you're like, okay, if you're banning all face coverings, I don't want there to be a religious privilege, right? It can't be like, They're like, okay, ban the niqab, not because you're banning the niqab. You're like, we're banning all face coverings in public. Okay. Now, this is, just in the same, for the same, I'm against religious privilege, but I'm also against any form of double standard. The reason why we're against religious privilege is because if you're banning face coverings, but except religious ones, they're like, why are they getting special treatment? That seems like a double standard. But I'm also against the double standard against the other side as well. Like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. If you could cover your face for non-religious reasons, you should be able to cover your face for religious reasons as well. Unless here's the only way I would accept this. Okay, if you say that everybody has to wear a COVID mask and then the niqab is not an effective way to cover it, then okay, then if you're wearing a niqab, then there should be a COVID mask under it. I don't know, I'm getting into too much detail.
Zaid is saying this law is more relevant in the Middle East than in Switzerland. There are so many incidents where thieves and robbers and kidnappers were disguised in niqab and then ran and blended into a crowd. This reminds me of a video I saw of like a young dude trying to, I don't know what Middle Eastern country this happened in, but it's like a young dude in a street market and he's trying to find his mom, but every single woman in the entire street is wearing head to toe black abaya. So it's just him going like, mama, mama, mama. Like, trying to find his mom, but they're all dressed exactly the same. Which is so funny because, we've all had that experience like as a child when you're in a grocery store and you lose your mom for a second and it's the most stressful thing in the world. But imagining that, but everyone is dressed like your mom, it's like terrifying.
That's a nightmare.
Where's my mom? So funny.
Yeah. All right. So we got a whole bunch of super chats and memberships.
Oh my goodness.
Darko used his 19-month membership to say we be live and global. Thank you so much, Darko. And then we got a super chat. Oh, this is funny. You should read this one.
Thank you, Kirana, for the super chats. And I just became an Illuminati member with the money from the Indonesian government scholarship. This super chat is funded by the Indonesian government. Wow. Well, thank you, Kirana.
Well, thank you.
Please make sure you're taking care of your student fees, though.
Yes.
But we support your education.
Yes. And thank you. A special thanks to the Indonesian government as well. Thank you for funding. We're officially funded by the Indonesian government right now. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.